Most horror games follow a reliable logic. A monster appears, a chase begins, and a jump scare releases the tension. But there is an underlying promise in the code. As long as you press the right buttons, you survive. A specific subgenre of horror is stripping that promise away. Developers are replacing fictional monsters with real people and haunted houses with actual locations. In these titles, the right inputs don't guarantee your safety because the tragedy you are interacting with has already concluded in the real world. Standard gaming mechanics feel different when they are tethered to facts. In The Bridge Curse 2, you watch a woman on an elevator security camera acting erratically, darting in and out of the doors as if something is following her. It is a nearly shot-for-shot recreation of Elisa Lam's final moments at the Cecil Hotel, mapping a real mystery onto a digital puzzle. We see the same transition in Fears to Fathom. The classic hiding under the bed mechanic isn't just a suspense builder here. It is based on a real person's submitted account of a home invasion, using the game to reenact a scenario someone actually lived through. We typically play games to exert control over an environment, but when a game is anchored to history, that agency is replaced by a script that was written decades before the player ever picked up a controller. To make history playable, developers often have to reshape it. In Velvet Assassin, you are a British spy in Nazi-occupied France, using stealth and silenced weapons to eliminate high-ranking officers. It presents the war as a standard action thriller, where the protagonist is always one button press away from victory. The real woman behind the character, Violette Sabot, didn't have access to checkpoints or a health bar. She held off the enemy until her ammunition ran out, allowing her comrades to escape, but she was captured and tortured by the Gestapo. She was executed at a concentration camp when she was only 23 years old. We see this same gap between mechanics and reality in the viral hit Granny. You spend the game trying to outrun a supernaturally fast elderly woman who patrols a decaying house with a bat. That concept mirrors the methodology of Tamara Samsonova, the Granny Ripper. But Samsonova didn't chase people through hallways. She quietly drugged her victims with sleeping pills and dismembered them while they were unconscious, a process that was routine, clinical, and completely inescapable for those in her home. A game where your character simply falls asleep and never wakes up wouldn't be a functional product. These crimes are reshaped into interactive puzzles because the unedited truth is often too stark to be sold as entertainment. Some games use their mechanics to explain why certain real-world problems are so difficult to solve. September 12th breaks the rules of the medium by removing the ability to win. The game presents a city filled with civilians and a handful of terrorists. If you fire a missile, the explosion kills your target, but also catches bystanders in the blast. As this diagram shows, grieving survivors transform into the very thing you were trying to eliminate. This mirrors actual military intelligence. Data shows civilian casualties from drone strikes directly contributed to extremist recruitment, turning a tactical strike into a long-term liability. By making every aggressive action a failure, the game turns the player into a participant in a cycle. It demonstrates that in this specific geopolitical loop, the only way to avoid making the problem worse is to stop firing entirely. In historical games, choice-based mechanics often highlight the player's lack of influence. 1979 Revolution, Black Friday, casts you as an Iranian photojournalist caught in the protests against the Shah. You navigate dialogue trees and make choices about what to photograph, but no decision you make can alter the timeline. You are moving toward an event that is already fixed in time. The game forces you to witness a digital version of the Black Friday massacre, where the military trapped thousands of unarmed protesters in a square and opened fire. The accuracy of this interactive history led the Iranian government to ban the game and blacklist its creator, Navi Kansari. The government accused the title of spreading propaganda, while Kansari found himself unable to return to his home country. In these scenarios, the usual power fantasy is gone. You aren't playing a hero who might save the day. You are a witness to a day that was already lost. This leaves us with a difficult question. Is it ethical to turn real human suffering into a digital experience? The game 1,378 kilometers was widely seen as crossing the line. It allowed players to take the role of East German guards and shoot defectors attempting to cross the Berlin Wall. For the families of the hundreds of people gunned down at that border, the game was a grotesque exploitation of their trauma. But there is a different path, using games for digital preservation. Chernobylite takes place in the exclusion zone surrounding the 1986 nuclear disaster. The developers didn't just imagine this landscape. They used 3D photogrammetry to scan real locations, digitally freezing abandoned apartments and the ruins of the power plant before they collapse from radioactive decay. When handled with precision, these games move past the goal of high scores or simple scares. They use the unique perspective of a first-person camera to place us inside a past we can no longer reach, proving that reality doesn't need a fictional monster to be terrifying.